Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Voice of the Voices here, and if you do not know what's going on, my last video, which is my summer DVD pickups video, my last video, I mentioned I was going to be reviewing three SummerSlams, which I consider my favorite ones. I'm not necessarily the best, but my favorite, and I'm doing them obviously in chronological order, not because I don't really have a specific favorite. But obviously you guys know already it's SummerSlam 2002, and I think I'm gonna review this in depth, and I think probably gonna piss off some people in this, a lot of people actually, because there's one particular match that gets a lot of praise, and I didn't think it was that good at all. But we'll get into that, and I think you guys will enjoy it. So SummerSlam 2002. Uh, we're just gonna start right off. It is at the Nassau Coliseum in Long Island, New York, and just to start out, this event was really the coming out party for one person. That was obviously Brock Lesnar. He was on a vicious tear all summer long, or all since his debut earlier that year in April, the day after WrestleMania. And he won the King of the Ring, which got him the number one contenders for the WWE Undisputed Championship against the champion, The Rock. So I really think it was the coming out party for one, and that was Brock Lesnar. The only thing that was bad about it is Lesnar would be out of the company for a year and a half. In a year and a half at WrestleMania 20, after WrestleMania 20. So if you wonder why people don't get those massive pushes like Lesnar did in 2002, I think it's because obviously what happened. He left a year and a half later. So, but we'll talk about that more later. We're at the Nassau Coliseum in Long Island, New York, as I mentioned before, and the opening match is probably one of my favorite matches of the night, as it was Kurt Angle versus making his pay-per-view debut Rey Mysterio, and boy, what a difference does it make seeing two guys who you last see them on TV both, and they're in terrible condition, Kurt Angle and Rey Mysterio, and you see a healthy Kurt Angle and a Rey Mysterio with knees, and it's a huge difference. As Rey at the time was probably easily he was faster than he was 100 times faster than anyone on the roster. So this is I just loved this opener. It's one of my favorite opening matches of all time. You'll hear wrestling fans often mention the trifecta, which is the three opening matches that wrestling fans consider the greatest. The first one would be Brian Pillman versus Jushin Thunder Liger from Super Brawl 2, which I reviewed before. The second one is Bret Hart versus Owen Hart from WrestleMania 10, which is probably my favorite opener of all time. And the third one is Rey Mysterio versus Psychosis from Bash at the Beach, 1996. But honestly, I love this match so much that this would be a fourth. I would make it. I would make it the square fecta, or the square rather than the trifecta, because I love this opening match so much. Uh, so it's just awesome stuff. Just their styles clash so well, and first of all, I'm surprised they didn't have a lot more matches. I think they probably had one or two matches after this, and probably on a SmackDown or whatever. They were involved in the triple threat at WrestleMania, but Orton was in there, and that wasn't even a really long match. The only problem I would say with this match is at the end there was a botch, and that was Mysterio sort of went for the Ultimo Dragon, spinning. We spun on top of Kurt Angle's head on the top rope, and it would do into a Hurricane Rana. And Angle was supposed to roll into it and basically go into with an ankle lock, but Kurt ended up, when he got Hurricane Rana, he ended up landing on his feet, and then he grabbed Ray's ankle for the ankle lock, which would end the match as Ray would tap out. But it was a great match. Obviously, Ray's pay per view debut, so he made a huge statement. And the story obviously was Kurt was trying to slow down Ray by putting in the ankle lock, but Ray would get out as soon as possible. So awesome story, awesome stuff. Ray's bumping his ass off. What more can you ask for? I would probably say this is either my favorite or my second favorite match in the night. So next, then we get the first of many Eric Stephanie segments, and at the time they've been in it. They've been general managers of their respected brand for a month now, I believe. And they would compete against each other because there would be the brand split and they would have their own specific talent and they couldn't go to the other show, so they were competing. But like the segment itself was really, I thought it was one, it was terrible acting by both Eric and Stephanie. As it was just clearly obvious acting, and it was I would say it was sub porno actually, because it's like Steph walks in to her office and Eric is sitting on the couch and he's like, Steph is like, Eric, what are you doing in my office? It was just very like, it was like, what the hell? It was just very bad. It was just a very bad segment. I did not like it, and it continued all night. As after each match they would check back with Eric and Stephanie watching the show. It was just but anyway, we're off to the next show. It was Ric Flair versus Chris Jericho. And I'm sorry, I'm just opening up just to make sure I got the right order. Yeah, it's yeah, Ric Flair versus Chris Jericho. And this match was for the two guys that are in there, it was sort of a disappointment, but if you looked at it, Flair was very past the point where he should have retired, even though he still had a lot of good work in him. But it was a very, I feel like it was sort of disappointing because I feel like they could have had a better match. It was a weird clash of styles. It was a decent match. I would say that it wasn't bad at all, but it was just you could see the various clash of styles. They were going the story was built around the figure four going for each other's submissions, but it was weird because they wouldn't work. They wouldn't build a story to that submission. Like there wasn't any leg work because Jericho is the walls of Jericho, so he could have worked on the legs or the back or whatever. There was just no work on either of those body parts that their submissions target, and it ended with the figure. After Jericho applied the figure four on Flair, Flair would apply the figure four on Jericho and make him tap. So it was just a weird. The story didn't make sense, and it was for the figure four, but they weren't really working on the legs or anything like that to make it the figure four. So it was just I didn't think it really made much sense of that. It was a decent match. I think these two would have a way better match next month at Unforgiven, if you guys want to check that out. I would say that's with a lot of the matches, because the next match is very much the same, which is, I believe... Oh no, we have a segment after that. It's called Rip to Hulkamania. And basically, it was Brock Lesnar destroying Hulk Hogan on SmackDown, which is a fun little match. Obviously, the biggest part is the aftermath, where he bear hugs Hogan and makes him internally bleed, and then I think he takes him out with a chair, and Hogan's bleeding, and Lesnar just looks like a freaking beast, and he killed Hulkamania. So I think but it's funny. It's called Rip to Hulkamania because really the Rip to Hulkamania was. Really Hulk Hogan killing himself with those remarks, but I won't get too much deep into that. So, Rip to Hulkamania. But anyway, we got our next match, which is Edge versus Eddie Guerrero, and Edge was really this is the big breakout year for Edge as. 2001 he was with Christian, and in the middle of the year he broke off, won the Intercontinental title a couple times, and then he dropped it to Regal, and then he would have feuds with very big single stars. Obviously, his first was with Regal. He had a match against Booker T at WrestleMania, which was dumb. It was over the Japanese shampoo commercial. Then he had a series with Angle, which was two pay-per-view matches, which was including the hair versus hair and a SmackDown cage match. And I think he had a little feud with Jericho. Where they had three matches on SmackDown or Raw, which also culminated into a cage match. And then he would team with Hogan. So Edge was really coming in this huge spot and very just a very big way. But then he would have this feud with Eddie Guerrero, which Eddie Guerrero is one of the greatest of all time as far as workers and well as far as everything. But very excellent worker Eddie Guerrero is. So no, these two have a very good match. I would say some of the story didn't make sense as he was working. Edge's shoulder was being worked on, but then Eddie gets tied in the ropes and and Edge spears him, and Eddie didn't really sell it as like the finisher, so it was weird seeing the spears like sort of a transitional spot. It was really these two finding their chemistry as they would have a much better match again Unforgiven, but then their best match would actually be a couple SmackDowns after that Unforgiven in a no holds barred match, which was just awesome. But it was very good, very good match. The ending didn't really make sense either, as Edge did end up hitting the spear, but it was on that injured shoulder that he was working on, that he was getting worked on by Eddie. So Edge hits the spear with that bad shoulder, and he didn't really sell it at all. So just minor complaints. A very good match. Uh, if you guys know, I don't really like doing ratings. I just say if it's very good or very bad. So you won't see stars, snowflakes, out of fives, out of tens. So sorry about that. Up next, up next, we get the World Tag Team Title match, which is what the champions, which are the Un-Americans, Lance Storm and Christian, I, which was just very dumb. They had the flags, they had the flag with the upside down American flag, and then they had a T-shirt with that upside down American flag, which I can only guess didn't get a lot of sales, and they were just the Un-Americans were just like I love Lance Storm as a worker, I love Christian as a wrestler, and Test I don't really care about, but uh, I don't know, they were just sort of in a bad spot because they were Canadian but they were these anti-American people. So just I don't know, but it was the World Tag Team Champions of Lance Storm and Christian from the Un-Americans, and they're facing probably one of my favorite tag teams of all time, thrown together teams of all time, which is Black Gold, Booker T, and Goldust. And first thing I want to mention is a Goldust because Dustin Rhodes, very underrated worker. His 2002, early 2003 run was probably his third best of his career, behind his 2013 run with his brother Cody, and then obviously his early WCW days in like 93, 94, 93, 94, where he was actually one of the best workers in the world at that time. So, but it was Goldust and Booker T, Black Gold. And this match was all right as Goldust played the face in peril as they were working on Goldust Southern stylish as they're preventing Goldust from getting the tag, and then to prevent the tag, they would distract the ref. So Goldust would tag Booker, and the ref didn't see it, so he had to send Booker back. And then Lance Storm went around the ring and then pushed Booker down, and then Goldust sort of went to the corner, and Booker wasn't there. So that stuff I like in a tag team match. Uh, well, it was a very short match. I think it was under 10 minutes. Also, the refereeing was awful in this match, noticeably, because the ending is Test. Well, the ref goes down. Booker gets tagged in. He goes off, and then Test runs in, and or no, the ref gets knocked out. And as the ref is knocked out, he's getting up, but Test comes in and big boots, I believe, Booker. But it's so weird because he like as he's getting up, you can clearly see that the ref can see Test doing it, but doesn't do anything about it. He's like, "Oh, what the heck? Test just got there. Oh, I'm gonna count Booker anyway." And then they count the three, and the Un-Americans win. So the refing was just awful in this match, but it was a decent tag team match, I will say. I think these four had a better match probably on Raw or something. So and then Black Gold would obviously have a much more signature tag team moments as they would win the World Tag Team titles, I think early 2003. So good stuff there. Then we get into, oh no, the next is they go to WWE New York, and Jamie Noble and Nydia are on stage and they're talking, but there's two guys there, and basically it's they're competing, and basically Nydia picks a guy and then starts making out with him like on this couch. Which was just freaking ridiculous. But the absolute most ridiculous part was just Noble cheering Nydia on while she was making out with this dude. So it was just Jamie Noble being the cuckold he is. He's like Nydia just starts making out with this dude, and Jamie Noble's like, yeah, yeah, like he's just cheering along. It was just so freaking weird, but very like what the hell. So Jamie Noble, the cuckold, I would say that. But then we get on to the next match, which would be the Intercontinental Champion Chris Benoit taking on Rob Van Dam, RVD. And the story of this match was Chris, or they were as they were doing the brand split, Benoit went to SmackDown, RVD went to Raw. But before that, Benoit beat RVD for the Intercontinental Championship on Raw. So the rematch was either RVD wins the title and brings it back to Raw, or Benoit wins and then the Intercontinental Championship is on SmackDown. So big stakes here. I would easily say this is probably RVD's best WWE match, as uh, I wouldn't easily say that because he also had a very awesome ladder match with Eddie. But you don't watch an RVD match and see, ooh, there's some fine leg work or there's some fine arm work, because RVD never incorporated storytelling in his matches. It was just spots, get up, spot, get up, spot, get up, and which was, which was entertaining. But at the same time, if you want to watch a good wrestling match and you're not seeing a story and not that well of selling, then it's not, you know, I wouldn't consider whoever's doing that good wrestling. But with Benoit, it's hard to not have a bad match, and you will obviously see like there was storytelling in this match as Benoit was working on the arms and the head, going for the crossface. There was some leg work. It was just awesome stuff. RVD obviously selling and bumping his ass off for the Benoit suplexes, and well, eventually RVD does get hit the frog splash for a win. So I would say this is probably this and the opener with Rey and Mysterio is the matches of the night. So now we have Undertaker versus Test, and uh, this was awful. This is easily the worst match of the night, but this is the first thing that people will probably yell at me for. But uh, people complain that Super Cena, and this is exactly, and I think it's a very unjustified and just dumb to complain about it. But Undertaker was that times 100 in this match, as he beats three guys because the other un-Americans interfere. He beats three guys, he grabs an American flag and celebrates. And wins for America. It was just like, what the hell? This is my worst version of Undertaker, the face good guy biker. I loved Big Evil when Taker was a heel and a biker, but when he was the face American Badass, it was just very cheesy, very awful, and very Undertaker like. It was just he had so many reasons not to like him as a face when he was a biker, and when he's with a big guy like Test. It's not good. And this match is the shortest match of the night. With I think it was only 8 minutes, but it felt super long. Uh, and Test never had a good, I don't think Test even had a good match. Maybe I'm trying to think. Well, his match with Shane at SummerSlam '99 was all right. The Greenwich Street Fight. I think he had a match with the Edge that was actually pretty decent, but Test never really had a good match. So, Taker eventually wins the Tombstone as Christian and Lance Storm interfere. He takes him out too, hits the Tombstone on Test, and then he grabs the American flag and celebrates. So I don't know what that was that, and it was awful. So we move on to the next match, as it's the non-sanctioned street fight with the returning Shawn Michaels versus Triple H. The story here was, this is gonna piss off a lot of people. I'm sorry, but we start off with basically the story was Shawn Michaels is back in WWE. Him and Triple H were buddy buddy. They were going to reform DX, but Triple H turned on him, saying, "We were never friends. I was using you to get on the top, just like you were using me to stay on the top back in '97." So, but then Shawn gets taken out mysteriously in a parking lot, and Triple H wants to get to the bottom of this because he loves Shawn which I don't know. After he said that, then he's like, "I love you, Shawn. I'm gonna find out who did this to you," and then which just didn't make sense at all. But then it is revealed that in the security footage, it was Triple H. He's like, "It was me all along," and then or no, he's like, "It was you, Hunter," and then Triple H is like, "You're damn right it was." It was just like, what the heck? But Triple H, so they just agreed to fight at SummerSlam, but since they didn't want to make it count, or they didn't want Shawn to get hurt and WWE be liable, they made it an unsanctioned street fight. And I'm going to pick on this match a lot, and because I don't like it, one bit. Honestly, thought it was probably the second worst match of the night, or second or third worst match of the night, to believe it. And people will say this is the greatest match in SummerSlam history. But first of all, they both come out, and the two things that get off the bat, and people may say it's small, but I think it's actually very huge. It's an unsanctioned street fight, but Shawn Michaels comes out in his street clothes, and Triple H comes out in his wrestling gear. And yes, I've seen a lot of street fights where both of the wrestlers are wearing the wrestling gear, but it doesn't make sense if one's wearing street clothes and one's wearing their wrestling gear. Either they both wear street clothes or they both wear wrestling gear. And then we have which it's an unsanctioned street fight. A referee is out there. There's a ref in the match, and there's been a lot of street fights and unsanctioned matches where there's a referee. But the thing is, the referee Earl Hebner is like gets very involved in the match. He's like pushing Triple H. He's like trying to stop Triple H from doing terrible things. To Sean, though, and he's trying to be civil in this match. It's an unsanctioned street fight where the goal is they're trying to kill each other. It's unsanctioned. It just didn't make any sense at all. So, but anyway, they're working in the match, and Triple H is working on Sean's back. As Sean had back surgery, he hasn't wrestled in 4 years, so he's working on the back. There's a good back breaker. There's back breakers. He's hitting Sean in the back with a chair, and which is good. But then Sean makes his comeback, and Sean makes. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I'll mention this. Sean makes his comeback, and he's not selling the back injury at all, which is just it's absolutely ridiculous. Because like he was beating on your back for a good 10 minutes, and you're doing all these moves, and you're not even selling that back injury. You're not hurt at all. And I think that's ridiculous too. But also the match, they're going for early pinfalls, which doesn't make sense because they're trying to beat the hell out of each other, not win a match. There's like there's these uh, transitional rest hold submissions. Like there's an abdominal stretch and like I think there's a chin lock, which is just it's an unsanctioned street fight. You want to go out there and try to kill each other. Um, Also, uh, part of the no selling. Oh no, this is still part of like the match was, and it's a fall. It's an unsanctioned street fight, but there wasn't falls count anywhere because they go for a. You know, Sean I think pins Triple H, tries to pin Triple H on the outside of the ring, and the ref tells him he has to go back in the ring. It's like it's an unsanctioned street fight. Why does is exclusively pinfall in the ring? But then there's a spot. My biggest proof to complain about the no selling, which is just absolutely ridiculous. Sean's supposed to sell his back injury because he's been getting beaten on for 10 minutes, and then he runs around the ring like he literally jogs around the ring just to do a face plant to Triple H into some stairs, which is just utterly ridiculous. But also, there's other ridiculous things like there's ladders and tables which were very unnecessary for that. And then you have JR shouting, making a big deal, and people love JR because he ups this match, but like how he was making it dramatic and all that stuff was so unnecessary because the match wasn't that at all. It was just over the top, it was cartoonish, and sometimes I like a lot of that stuff in wrestling, but in this case, I don't think this had to be like it. And at the time, I think I've watched this match for the first time, and I sort of liked it. Then I sort of heard the criticism and rewatch it, and I totally agree. It's just absolutely ridiculous, and I think it just didn't age well. And people should watch this again and look at it that way because it's absolutely ridiculous. The no selling, the tables and the ladders, it's just so all unnecessary. But anyway, Sean ends up getting the win with a roll up, no less. It's not like they were beating each other. He goes for a super kick. Then Triple H counters into a pedigree, but Sean counters it into like a jackknife cover, which to an unsanctioned street fight, is probably the dumbest ending ever, in my opinion. It's just absolutely stupid. But Sean gets the win, and as he's celebrating, Triple H hits him in the back with a sledgehammer, and then hits him harder for the second time and walks away evil. So that's your ending to that whole segment thing, and Sean, the storyline was supposed to be Sean. It was a way to write off Sean for good. He had his one match, and now he could walk into the sunset and be happy. But Sean ended up making appearances here and there, and then he came back to the Elimination Chamber at Survivor Series 2002, won the World Heavyweight Championship, and then he wrestled until WrestleMania 26. So, which I love Shawn Michaels. Don't get me wrong. So I think that's very awesome because as a child and even today, Shawn Michaels is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. So, but then we get into the next thing, which was Howard Finkel. Shortly after Howard Finkel was announcing, it was his first. I think well, it was weird because it was Howard Finkel being a heel, which it was his only time they attempted him being a heel, and which is just so it's funny. I thought it was actually pretty funny because he was an announcer in his tone, and but he was saying like. He was saying it was his first event at the Nassau Coliseum since WrestleMania 2, and then Trish comes up because I think him and Trish had a little feud going on, and Trish decided, I'm sorry what I did all to you, and I just want to be friends with you and all this stuff, and but then she was like coming on to him, and Howard was like liking it. Then he like calls the crowd jackasses or something like that, which is for an announcer with like Howard Finkel to be a heel like that it was absolutely hilarious in my opinion. But then he says, so Trisha's like flirting with Howard and with Finkel, and they're hugging, and then Howard says, uh, "I have you. It's a doggy dog world, Trish. You have the puppies." But I have my wiener, which is just and like the whole crowd just goes, "What the fuck?" It was pretty funny, but then I think Lillian Garcia comes out, and then I think she kicks Howard in the wiener. So, uh, I would say the segment was completely dumb, but I thought it was actually pretty funny. So it was just a way to get to the main event, and then we have the main event, which is the next big thing at the time: Brock Lesnar facing the champion, The Rock. And this opening to this or the what it was leading into this match was I loved it was if you have the DVD, which I highly recommend, you can get it for pretty cheap. I got it for $4, but I know you can get online for under 20. But anyway, they have in the DVD they have the extras of each of their individual training. So you have The Rock like doing weight training and speed and running up the stairs at the Orange Bowl and all these football like training, and then you have Brock Lesnar like carrying the log around and doing push-ups on chairs and the ice baths and throwing tires around and stuff. It was just really cool each of their training regimens. Seeing that it made it look like an actual awesome like big fight, like a big UFC fight that you and your buddies gather at your house, and it's that one pay per view you buy because you want to see the big fight. And they were building it like that. It was Rock versus Brock for the WWE title, so it was a big deal. So I will say, coming out the bat, this isn't obviously. I don't think this is the best match of the night, or I don't think it's The Rock's best match. But definitely, I would say The Rock's best match was either one of his matches with Foley or his match against Stone Cold at WrestleMania 17. But this is definitely The Rock's best performance because you have someone Brock Lesnar he's only been in wrestling for like a year and a half at that time, but he was only in WWE for I think 4 months, you know, and Brock makes him look like and so Lesnar is very green, I would say. But The Rock makes him look like $1 million as he's selling his ass off. He's bumping his ass off. You know, The Rock, easily I would say this is The Rock's best performance in a match. And I'm going to just say Lesnar. Lesnar throws The Rock like across the ring with a belly to belly suplex, and this is just awesome. Not an awesome match, but a very 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 good match. But awesome performing by The Rock. So awesome stuff. The Rock eventually hits, or not, but Lesnar eventually hits the F5 for the win, and he becomes the youngest champion in the history of wrestling at the age of 24, I think he was. 24 or 23. So, oh no, he was 24 because I think Orton was 23 when he won the world title 2 years later. So obviously Brock Lesnar wins, becomes your new champion, and just a very, very, very good match, but an awesome performance out of The Rock. So, uh, overall, I would say SummerSlam 2002 it's easily one of my favorite SummerSlams. Obviously, I wouldn't be reviewing it if I didn't think that. But easily, as far as match to match, one of the best matches. Just because usually I like watching event from its entertainment aspect. You have those fun matches, but as far as work, just match to match to match, awesome worked matches. With your only awful match that everyone I think will agree on would be Undertaker versus Test. Besides that, just awesome stuff from the event. An easy event to watch. You know, I think I've probably seen this. I've seen this event 5 times, but I can just pop it in and watch it, and always have fun watching it. You see good wrestling in 2002, which is a good year. So a great year. So thanks again, guys, for watching. As my next SummerSlam review will be coming out shortly, as it'll be a surprise to you guys. So again, thanks for bearing through. It's been a long review, so thanks for bearing through with me. You guys all have a good one.